All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Sunday. As we get Sunday night football, we just saw Josh Allen score his third rushing touchdown of the game. He has three passing touchdowns as well. That makes him, according to Mr. Matt Belman, the first player in NFL history to run for three and throw for three in the same game. Belman, did you have any Josh Allen today?
I didn't. I played two lineups as I was telling you before. One of them was this game. I played Stafford, Puka, and Cup, and that lineup is cashing pretty nicely, but clearly no takedown because no Josh Allen. Thought about playing him, but again, only played two lineups. So no, I didn't. But again, one of my two lineups is pretty good. So it'll end up like breaking even today.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. I was a little nervous there because I did not play Sam Darnold today. I played my one lineup across DK, FanDuel, and Yahoo. Played Josh Allen as my quarterback in all three. So, wow, kind of fun to have a day like that. Last crazy day I remember like that was 10 years ago, probably. Russell Wilson, 300 yards passing, but 100 yards rushing. I think he was the first quarterback to do that. That was in St. Louis against the Rams. Kind of like the Rams have been on the back end of both of these here. So there we are. All right. So big news here. We have an inactive, and that would be Mr. McConkey is out, Matt. So that kind of shakes things up a little bit here. So no McConkey on the Kansas City side. Nothing surprising there. They're missing a few defensive players, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still out. The Kansas City side, we don't have the starting lineups yet, but we could get DJ Humphrey starting at left tackle. If not, he is likely to at least play some. He was released this last spring by Arizona. He had some injury issues towards the end of his career there, but he played 8 or 9 years there in Arizona. So the Chiefs are desperately, and when I say desperately, I literally mean desperately looking for a left tackle. Patrick Mahomes was hit, I think, 8 or 9 times last week. He had 5 sacks last week. He has been sacked the most in his career already, and he has the most hits and the highest pressure percentage of his career. And we've still got games to go here, so that's not very good. So those are kind of the offsetting things that we have here. But it was Kingsley Suit. I don't even want to attempt his last name, but he was the rookie. He started the first couple games, and then he got benched. Wanya Morris basically came in, and they've been kind of both playing a little bit there, but Morris was starting. And then he got bounced in the last game. So we'll see what happens. But changes afoot here. But that McConkey news is going to loom large here. So let's start there. We've got a good Kansas City passing defense here. They've already seen Justin Herbert once. They held him in check. He was 16 of 29 or 16 of 27 for 59% completion percentage. 180 yards and 1 touchdown. That was all the way back in week 4. That's a lifetime ago in the NFL. But he has lost 2 of his 9 career starts against the Chargers. And since 2014, the Chargers have 18 losses and 3 wins against Kansas City. Wow. Talk about some domination. I'm hoping the Kansas City luck runs out, but did not get my bets in that I wanted. And now that McConkey's out, I'm glad I didn't. What do you have with this no McConkey, no J.K. Dobbins for the second game? We've got Justin Herbert. Is he going to literally carry the whole team?
Yeah, so interesting game here. You talked about the Chiefs' dominance over the Chargers. Not quite like the Steelers' dominance over the Browns. Cleveland hasn't won in Pittsburgh in the regular season in 21 years. But still, Kansas City has owned the Chargers. Maybe that changes now with Harbaugh in town. This Chargers team is better coached than Chargers teams of the past under Brandon Staley. So I think this should be a competitive game. I mean, the Chiefs, it's like Groundhog's Day with them. They keep not looking great, but winning every game. Last year at the same time, people were talking about how the Chiefs' run is over. They ended up winning the Super Bowl.
I know.
Clearly, no one would be surprised if the same thing happens this year. I think this game should be tight, though. Kansas City just hasn't shown me enough to think that they're going to run away against anyone, especially a team with a defense as good as the Chargers right now.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a rock fight, I think, that we are usually seeing with the AFC North, right? This feels like it's going to be a tough one. We've seen some of the AFC West teams perform well against the Chiefs, right? The Raiders have given them hell over the last few years, and the Raiders haven't been that good, right? So, maybe there's something we can see. In this, Patrick Mahomes, I wanted to say, I get my notes here. Sorry. So Mahomes I think he has 6 game-winning drives this year and 4 fourth-quarter comebacks. That's just nuts. That's like about a third of what he has for his career. For the fourth-quarter comebacks have been in this season. So, in any event, or over the last 4 years anyway. So it should be a fun one. It should be a fun one. With no McConkey, that is going to shake up the captain situation here, or the multiplier slot, the MVP, if you were playing over there on FanDuel. We've got attempting to parse this out. Josh Palmer was always kind of the guy that we went to in DFS whenever Mike Williams was hurt, whenever Keenan Allen was hurt. Now they're both out of town, and he got passed by Quentin Johnston, who last year had a terrible rookie year. But the only thing separating them is just a handful of targets and a couple catches. Oh, and 5 touchdowns, because Quentin Johnston has 6 of the 13 passing touchdowns or receiving touchdowns do you like how I did that? Just like a referee would, receiving touchdowns here for the Chargers. So I think that's kind of even. You have Jalen Reagor. So he's on his 4th team in the last 5 years. How many career receiving yards do you think he has? He's been in the league. This is his 5th year.
A lot of your questions are layups. This is not one of them. Receiving yards in his career. Is
it over or under 1,000 yards?
Under.
It is under. He is 22 receiving yards away.
Oh, okay. That's more than I was gonna say, like in the 700. So okay.
Yeah. So no, he's close, but that's just wow. Just what was he, like the 16th pick overall or whatever he was? Yeah, that's pretty dicey. And DJ Chark. So DJ Chark was hurt for most of the season. He came back. God, we had him. We've talked about him on a game that I don't think he ended up playing, or that was the game he had 1 snap. He has played 1 snap after they opened up his practice window. He came back before they would have had to cut him or put him back on IR. He played 1 snap, didn't play for 2 games, and then I believe he played 3 snaps last week. So he's lurking out there. But among this not so fearsome foursome, what are you liking? We'll put Disley in his own category.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to separate these guys. Right now, if the slate started right now and it starts soon, I'd be getting over on Palmer, over on Disley, under on Quentin Johnson. Never feel bad about that. A little bit over on Reagor, but really the strong take is Palmer, and I like that. I've always been a Palmer fan. He's been kind of a DFS enigma, up and down, but he's no longer fighting with McConkey. Certainly no longer fighting with the Keenan Allens or Mike Williams of old. Now with McConkey gone, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets peppered tonight. Again, Quentin Johnston has surpassed him, and his upside is higher, but the consistency has just never been there with either of these guys, frankly, but especially with Johnston.
Yeah, this is one of those where the lack of passing for it's more the lack of touchdowns, I should say, for Herbert. In the first 4 games, he averaged something like 22.5 completions or attempts per game. They had the bye in week 5. And since then, he's had 32 or more pass attempts in 5 of the 8 games. He's had 36 in 2 of the last 3. So the volume's kind of getting there. He's had, his touchdowns have kind of come in that this most recent 5 or 6 game stretch, but only one game above 300 yards. So it's kind of interesting because he's almost like the mirror image of Mahomes now, right? He doesn't really have a great pass catcher. Now, McConkey was kind of his Kelsey, right? So two really good quarterbacks. But who's really going to be catching the ball for him? And that's going to cause issues. They can't really lean on the running game. Well, I mean, I guess they can. Gus Edwards, how many targets for Gus Edwards this year?
0, 1.
He had one last week. So he's not really a passing threat.
He missed a bunch of time, though. I mean, he's not a pass catcher, but he did miss a bunch of time.
Yeah, I don't think Vidal had any targets last week either. So I would expect that to change. And then you've got Hassan Haskins as the other guy floating around. He fumbled on his only carry last week. So go Michigan. I wonder if Coach Harbaugh likes that or not. So we'll have to see. But the rushing game just looks terrible. And considering Kansas City has allowed just 100 yards rushing in a game, not just to a running back, but in a game once this year, they have the third lowest average at 87.3. So they've been pretty impressive this year. But yeah, there's just questions everywhere. The Stokastic projections have Edwards for about 11 carries and 40 yards, Vidal for about half a dozen and 25 yards, and Haskins getting a courtesy carry and a half. So Vidal probably projects for about 2 targets. I think that could go up. I didn't pull those since we got McConkey out of there, but it's not like there's much of a track record for passes to the backfield for this team because there's just been so many games where they haven't had to run a lot of plays, and including last week when the defense had 4 interceptions of Kirk Cousins, who has thrown 8 interceptions at least since his last touchdown. If I was catching that on Twitter, yikes. He didn't get a remember me game. This was a great decision that you walked away from me game against Minnesota.
Yeah.
So we have questions until we get to Will Dissly. The Chiefs have the most yards against by tight ends this season. They have top 3. I didn't run it for this last week, but they're top 3 in fantasy points allowed. I think they're number 1. To tight ends, and you have Dissly, who is that traditional tight end, right? He's kind of the blocker. He was a longtime Seahawk. He got a decent contract with the Chargers, and he has personal highs already for targets, receptions, and yards. Not a lot of yards, 399, 1 touchdown. Again, not that many there, but he has the 3rd most targets on the team. So has there been anything enticing yet from the Chargers here aside from Dissly and Herbert?
I mean, I like Palmer. I think he's too cheap for this role. He could end up being, the leading receiver in this game. He's got that type of upside, but consistency-wise, certainly not there. I think Dissly is probably the best bet. The thing to like about the Chargers is that Herbert's throwing these guys the ball. It's hard to distinguish between them and know where that ball is going, but all of them are in play because of that.
Yeah, it's going to make this kind of fun. So we've sort of seen everything diffused here. We have a semi-low volume offense that would prefer to run, but is without their main running back. Now they're without their main receiver. So, and in a tougher matchup here on the road. So, but this is what makes it fun, right? Turning our attention here to the Kansas City side, we have an Andy Reid backfield here that has Isaiah Pacheco back. My guess is that he doesn't really play more than half the snaps. They're probably going to give him the high leverage touches, but I think between the 20s or the low leverage stuff is probably going to be Kareem Hunt, right? Because you need Pacheco if you're going to move forward in the playoffs and defend the Super Bowl for, make a run at their 3rd one. So that's going to be very important. Don't need to wear him out now. You've got Samaje Perine lurking for about 20 to 25% of the snaps. And then with Pacheco back, Carson Steele, I think he only had 3 snaps last week. So he's going to kind of be set back aside. Wouldn't be a shock if he got a carry or 2 tonight in low leverage situations just to spice things up or see if he has the hot hand, but not really one of those spots. But we could see Perine playing a little bit of an upset special here. We've got Pacheco and Hunt. What do you like from the backfield? Because nobody's expensive, but everybody kind of needs a touchdown to do much here.
I think the more it goes on, the more Pacheco gets the work. So we're a week now from him being back. I think he starts to get more work here. I mean, Kareem Hunt is who he is. He was a nice stopgap while Pacheco was hurt, but I think that he's going to be the clear number two back. Maybe not tonight where it's like Pacheco's the bell cow, but I expect him to be, whether it's 65-35, like somewhere in that range for Pacheco.
Okay. I'm still going 50-50. I agree with the sentiment that that is going to increase, but no more than two-thirds, I would think, heading down the stretch. But if they could ever play a game where it wasn't close, maybe they get the luxury of resting him. Maybe they could rest Travis Kelce because Kelce has been playing a ton this season. So remember that they had talked about, well, we want to take it a little easier on him, et cetera, et cetera. He's played on 83% of the snaps, which is just crazy. He's 35, turned 35 in October. We've got Noah Gray that's kind of popping up. He has two touchdown games in 2 games ago and 3 games ago. You have Juju Smith-Schuster came back 3 weeks ago. So he's sort of cutting in. McCole Hardman's out tonight. They put him on the injured reserve. That's really not, it's not going to make that much of a difference. DeAndre Hopkins, similar to my thoughts on Pacheco, I don't know how much he's going to play. He hasn't really been over 60% of the snaps. He does seem to be out there for passing downs. He does have 4, 6, and 9 targets in his last 3 games, but they're going to need him for the postseason. You got Xavier Worthy, who has been getting better, not quite the Rashid Rice traction here, but he's been looking better. And then Justin Watson in the mix here. So it's a cast of thousands on both sides. Focusing back on Mahomes, he's having the worst season of his career, lowest yards of his career, highest interception rate, highest sack rate, most pressures already and hits, and most sacks against, including as well as percentage rates. What are you thinking for Patrick Mahomes? How is he going to conduct this island of misfit toys?
Man, both teams are similar in that regard. It's like, man, you just don't know where the ball is going to go. But both quarterbacks are really good. Kansas City, obviously, a little more solidified because they're not missing their top guy. Kelsey's there. We've seen in the regular season him take a step back. They need wins, though, to secure the 1 seed in the AFC. So it's like Kelsey and everyone else in Kansas City as far as the actual wide receivers go. I mean, Worthy, Hopkins, those are the top 2 guys that I'd be looking at, but I don't think either of them are must plays like by any means. It's very